Boom. Well, hopefully I got my tech all squared away. I know it's Memorial Day. Some of y'all probably 4 or 5 Bud Lights in. No judgment. Some of y'all might be 1 or 2 rack of ribs in. Judgment. But hey, since it is Memorial Day, I wanted to announce something very excited about across the board. I'm officially on television show, and I built an awesome platform called Exit Ready for the veteran in your family, for the veteran in your group chat, for the veteran in your head, more importantly, the veteran in your heart. Is at least, I know every family has at least one person in their iPhone Rolodex who probably put on the uniform. So this video, this live is for them, and more importantly, this show is for them. So what has happened in the last couple months, I made a decision. I was like, hey, um, if I could coach every veteran in the world, I would love to, but I know that it's not realistic. And so I know one of the best ways is to reach out to folks, is to be on the big screen. So I made a decision that I was going to launch my own show. And I was blessed enough to be partnered with the incredible team at Zondra TV Network, where we've decided to put together a 6-episode show entitled Exit Ready, because I feel like soldiers are often, we're trained for the combat battlefield, but we're not necessarily always trained for the economic battlefield. And whether or not there's a recession or inflation, it's just those, some things never change. So what I wanted to do is feature out an exit strategy so that every veteran in your head and in your heart, any veteran you've ever worked with, will have an exit strategy going forward. Because a lot of times they'll focus in on the resume, they'll focus in on the job interviews, but it's kind of like, what is the detailed plan? Like, what is next level up versus just an interview or just preparing for your resume? So I'm going to share my screen here and drop a preview of what the show is going to look like. It's already out. So if you go to your Roku device or whatever streaming device you have, type in Zondra TV. It's Zondra with a Z, Zondra. And we've got 6 episodes right there, as you can see up top. And each one of them is a different speech, different lesson, different class, different course. Episode 1 was kind of my babies, your final marching orders. And those were kind of the reverse steps. When I made that first gig out of the military, it was like that first 6-figure gig. Like, what did I have to do? Like, how did I reverse engineer doing that? And so your final marching orders is strictly for that. And then the second episode is 6-figure soldier. It's one of my favorites concepts, again, because it was more so about leveling up than just getting a job to check a box. And so I figured if we can do it like that, and highlight C-level skill sets versus just, again, throwing darts at a board. So 6-figure soldier is more of the, how do you get to the C-suite? How do you get to the director's level? How do you get to the next level in career? Not just, again, checking a box, just to say we check the box. All right. The third episode is basic business training. This is kind of my signature course that I teach at all the different workshops that I go to around the country. In a couple of weeks, we'll be in Denver, Colorado, presenting basic business training. So in this episode, stands for basic business training. It stands for the battle and strategy involved in commerce. All right, that's my thank you. What's up, Rad Bandit? I am having a good day. But basic business training, think of it as a crash course MBA for vets. So a lot of times, again, soldiers are trained for the combat battlefield. But we're not necessarily trained for that economic battlefield. So it's a great breakdown going over all the different business strategies that veterans kind of need to be aware to. Because, again, we're really only taught mostly about combat, not necessarily commerce. So basic business training, that's another one of my favorite episodes. And then the next one that we have is the Pentagon's $5 billion problem. I don't think folks realize like how incredibly impactful veteran unemployment impacts people at every level, at the city level, municipal, at the state level, and of course federal. So if people are unemployed, what do you think they're going back to? A lot of times the government for assistance, which is nothing wrong with that, but there is something part of the plan. If 200,000 are transitioning out every year, and the unemployment numbers are through the roof on top of that, so which is not great. All right, so we want to talk about from a big bottom line how veteran unemployment affects the country at every level, and if you add it up, it's about $5 billion. It's not a joke. ChatGPT can triple check that. Next episode we got there is Soldier to CEO. Again, it's inspired by some of the awesome vets I see I live and eat, sleep, and breathe on LinkedIn. And so I just see some absolute superstars on there. And so just if I had to think about it from the day I transitioned out of the military, if I could go from soldier to CEO, could I put a battle plan down together? And I didn't know how to do that when I first transitioned, nor was I trained to. All right. So this episode kind of brings light, puts a spotlight on how folks can mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset and an entrepreneurial mindset, which again, we're not really focused or taught to. And then the last one there is strong enough to surrender. You'll see a good friend and coach of mine, co-host Coach Jay Mosley, who's got a phenomenal platform entitled "You Good, Bro," and so where he's a men's wellness coach. And so I know a lot of times, fellas, we are very hesitant to openly talk about going to therapy. I go on a regular. I have a phenomenal therapist. Let me know if y'all need a link to her website. She's amazing. But we don't talk about that enough. And I know, especially in the military community, it's kind of felt like just drink water and walk it off. And so on this one, Coach Jay and I talk about, just some of the battles you deal with just as men, as husbands, fathers, just our role in society and the community, that we're often taught that big boys don't cry. And Coach Jay has a phenomenal aspect. And he's like, well, big boys do cry. And sometimes we need to check on each other. And so we're going to be looking to host retreats here in the coming weeks, coming months. And because as I recap all of this, I want y'all to understand also every episode here in the show is actually going to be featured and hosted on a mobile app, Military Transition University. It's my online coaching program that I established to teach a lot of this to vets all over the world. And so each episode will have a book. And each episode will also be featured again in the mobile app, Military Transition University, free online coaching program. All right. So I wanted to feature all of this on a show for the same reason, because I feel like a lot of this was the stuff that was missing from mine when I first transitioned out of the military. It's like, hey, we'll let you, we'll go over your resume. Hey, we'll basics of how to do an interview, but we never really went deep enough. So these first 6 episodes of Exit Ready is exactly what I felt like I was missing when I transitioned out of the military. That's not to point a finger. That's not criticism on any one program. I transitioned out in 2007. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's been a minute. But I just felt like if I needed something more than anything, what program could I put together? And now that we have AI and Chat GPT, the productivity level is off the chart. So now it's like I have real estate. Now I own a website. Now it's like you own a mobile app. It's like owning some digital equity, which is something I wasn't taught when I first transitioned out. So even launching this program, it's a course within a course, if you will. And I just wish I knew some of these things when I first transitioned out of the military, because again, I feel like a lot of us weren't taught some of these things. So these were the 6 core episodes. These were the first 6 classes, but more importantly, the first 6 steps. I want to say the most important, because soldiers are trained for the combat battlefield, and we're not necessarily trained for that mental, emotional, and the spiritual battlefield. So on each episode, Coach Jay and I will break down, again, some of the different aspects of being not just a veteran, but being, again, just a male member of society. I know sometimes it's harder on fellas if you lose your job when you transition out of the military, because a lot of people do. And that's exactly what happened to me. That's why I started the show. That's why I started the program, MTU. That's why I launched the app, because I was unemployed for 18 months, a year and a half. And I'll tell y'all, that's one of the worst moments and times in my life. Because again, in America, we teach you that your occupation becomes your identification. And so what happens is, if we take away their occupation, we don't really know who we are outside the uniform. And since soldiers are trained for the combat battlefield and not the economic battlefield, I didn't know who I was without my rifle. I didn't know who I was without the uniform. I didn't know who I was without my dog tags. And so I had a huge identity issue. And then you compound it with the fact that I was only trained for combat. I was also not trained for commerce. So it's like I got an identity issue on one hand. I don't know the basics of business on the other. Like, I don't know why sales was important or why marketing was important and certain things like that. I wasn't really taught about the C-suite or to think about it, because I'm trained for downrange. I'm thinking for 1 or 2 things, not necessarily anything that pertains to the business world. Certainly. And then if I am hurting physically, mentally, a lot of times, again, it's not just a military thing, but I notice a lot of men in society, it's walk it off, drink water, be silent, silently struggle. And it's like we got to at some point accept the fact that we got to be strong enough to surrender and ask for help. So when you look at the four or six aspects of a veterans life cycle, unemployment is number one. It's like the first, second, and third biggest thing. The second biggest issue is homelessness, right? Which kind of makes sense. They lose their homes if you don't have a job. And then the third biggest issue is mental health. So depression and anxiety. So they say that half the country suffers from depression, the other half suffers from anxiety. So it's like we got a fear of the past and a fear of the future. So if we put it all together, it's like you lose your house, you lose your job, you lose your identity, and then they kind of lose the will to live. Right. And the fourth biggest issue is physical injuries. So again, the whole point of the military is to actively being in a war or preparing for the next one. And then lack of education. So I know when I transitioned out of the military, I checked 4 out of those 5 boxes when I first out. I never had to experience homelessness, but it was something that when you take away your uniform, your occupation, it's like you go from this to zero in society. I mean, think about the last time you saw a homeless dude at the intersection. We all pretend to look the other way and you check for a sign, and the sign usually says a homeless vet, God bless. And it's like, I understand why that happens now. And this is all to anytime I talk numbers on the show, it's all backed by data. Everything is from the U.S. Census Bureau or U.S. Labor of Statistics, because I don't like putting out fake numbers by any means, and there's no need to lie, exaggerate about numbers from that aspect. So all of that is data, and I couldn't believe the numbers when they did say that about 200,000 vets transition out of every year, but also a large portion of them transition into unemployment. And that's exactly what happened to me. So this is a quick recap of the show. I'll let y'all watch it, check it out. Let me know what you think. Good, bad, ugly. I hope we did some point. I had to empty out my 401k to knock all of this stuff out. The app, the show, all of this good stuff, the marketing, everything I had to do. I did it so that the veteran in your family won't have to suffer what I had to suffer, so that they won't have to suffer for unemployment and things like that. So y'all check out the show. Let me know what you think. It is going to be not just national, but international. We got viewers in France and Italy and all of this. And that was a big reason why I started this, because I wasn't just picking on America's transition program. I was talking about the global transition program. It is unbelievable. If you look at the stats, and you just pull up Chat GPT and look at the stats of unemployment, again, for global vets, and it makes sense, just the ideology as a whole. It's like we're trained for the combat battlefield, but we're not trained for the economic battlefield, which makes sense. And so this show is kind of my answer to a global problem. So share this with a veteran in the group chat. Share this with a veteran, at least one person in your iPhone Rolodex who's likely put on a uniform. But yeah, man, my new show is out, Exit Ready. I'm super excited. This is the first season. We're gonna do probably a second or third. I'm trying to do as many as I can, in all honesty. But this season again will be focused primarily on military transition, and in season 2, I will be coming back with corporate transition, because everybody I know in corporate hates their job. No one says it though. They say it quietly. And so I realized that people needed an exit strategy, because just like military folks transition out of the military, people in corporate have a lot of issues transitioning out of corporate, because no one really gives us an exit strategy. We just kind of like 2-week notice and thoughts and prayers, which is more of hope than a strategy. So this season again was military transition, but next season will definitely be corporate transition, and we circle back for military transition season 3. So cool. Y'all let me know what you think. Good, bad, ugly. I'm super excited with the feedback. What we're going to try to do. And the other thing I'll say is traveling to different bases. And so, in the future, it would be amazing if we could film at Fort Bragg, at Fort Hood, at Fort Drum, at a base in France, at a base in Italy, because again, this is a global problem. And then also, Coach Jay and I wanted to host retreats for the fellas out there who just need a little love, need some community, and for things like that, because again, it feels like we're trained for the combat battlefield. and not that mental, emotional, and spiritual battlefield. So y'all be on the lookout for the retreats that Coach Jay and I will be hosting for vets as well, because I swear to tell y'all, we all need some love. Cool. Y'all let me know what you think. Again, I'll put this, they let me, boom. It's in the comments. So y'all check it out and forward this to the veteran in your family. This is Richie Thomas, the Soldiers Coach, and I'm gonna tell you peace out. But the reality is most of y'all need peace in. Boom.